That welcome to Geek Nerd Tech on Black Hollywood Live. Today, Google unveils the lighting products, and we talk about Westworld.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live's Geek Nerd Tech.
Just like him. But it's undeniable. Welcome to Geek Nerd Tech, the show we break down tech news, nerd culture from a black and brown geek perspective. That is Craig Mack bringing flavor in your ear from the 90s. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm joined as always by my man Akili Shine. What's up, Akili?
What's good, man? We were just talking offline, man. And you said that Craig Mack is Busta Rhymes' brother?
Yes, sir. And when you look at them, you're like, of course they're brothers. Like, look. they're like, yeah, no, that's, they are brothers. Unfortunately for Craig Mack, he didn't have the career that Busta had. But there was a moment in time when Busta was coming off of Leaders in the New School and just going solo with Put Your Hands Where Your Eyes Can See and Flavor in the Ear came out, where it looked like the Busta brothers were on the rise.
The Busta brothers.
They were on the rise, and
Man.
then Craig Mack just fell off. So,
But Craig Mack, I mean, at least with this song, Flavor in the Ear, is so culturally incredible. Like what he did with this song. Like this song, man, I just remember it distinctly. Like listening to it over and over again as a kid. Like
Right.
It was just impactful record.
it's super impactful. It's one of those instances to me where like there's certain artists or certain rappers that you know, there's a couple categories for me. There's the artists that like sort of do their, you know, write their rhymes, write their lyrics, and have this song that's written, and they're so lyrically skilled that the producer listens to the lyrics and comes up with the beat around what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's others that hear the beat
Exactly.
and that can do it with the beat. Like Jay-Z is the person who hears the beat and can ride the beat.
Exactly.
Craig Mack rode that beat. Like
Right.
You know, that song was not written and a beat was created around that song.
Of course.
And that's a very particular skill to be able to vibe out with the beat and do it so wonderfully.
But I think that's how most records are made these days, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, because the music is everything. That's the house. That's the house where you put all the furnishings in, and the lyrics obviously are the furnishings.
It's true, but I think of some of the more lyrical artists like a Mos Def or Kweli or even Eminem or nowadays Logic. I feel like these guys like
Just in the rhyme book with no beat.
I feel like these guys have a giant rhyme book out first.
Oh, this one goes to that one.
And then they figure out how to put a bit of beat around it. But
I got you.
You know, anyway, welcome to Geek Nerd Tech. We're here on a Wednesday, post debate, post vice presidential debate. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But did you watch that?
I did, actually.
I mean, what would you think?
I mean, I thought that they was going ham. They was going at each other. And I think that, I mean, it's very similar to, you know, our discussion surrounding the first presidential debate. Just a lot of you know, posturing and the same, you know, old political tricks, and not really really circumventing and navigating around issues, not really hitting them directly.
Right.
But I do like the combativeness. I think it was even a little bit more than we saw in the presidential one. And just like, hey, nah, you're not gonna say that. I'm gonna really come to your neck, bro, and
Sure.
I'm gonna check you on this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I like that too. I think that people, I mean, I think they were both debate prep for both of them was that because they're both, you know, just self-admittedly two boring Midwest guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Pence calls himself like the, you know, Rush Limbaugh on decaf or the most boring Republican out there.
he's definitely boring.
And, you know, and we know that Tim Kaine's like a soccer dad or whatever. So it's like, so I think that it was to them to come and not come with the bombast, but at least just come like, we're not just two boring guys. I think they did that. I felt that though. That's the only thing that was kind of like, oh, okay, they're trying. I liked it. I mean, I feel like that debate wise, like just hardcore debate wise, I feel like Pence maybe won. I think that on substance and on everything else, that, you know, I mean, Kaine killed him.
Yeah, he won because he won because he was avoiding answering questions.
Right.
I mean, of course, yeah, like your disposition symbolically, what you look like to the viewer. Oh, you're more put together. You're less unraveled, but you're not giving us any information.
Well,
like you're derailing the questions. Like,
No. Well, what you saw are two skilled, especially with Governor like Pence, like two skilled politicians, like who just used to like just smoothly dodging. Yeah, like especially Pence, man. He was really smooth.
I mean, because he hit him a couple times. Like you're really gonna put that on stamp that has your approval, and he still wouldn't even like address it. Yep.
He's like, I don't know what you just said. Anyway, that's interesting. So we'll talk about the social impact and everything else of that. There's some things we have to talk about on there. But as promised, we teased this a couple weeks ago and we talked about it in the open, but Google is finally here. We did a lot of Google stories last week, but this week, Google finally did their big event. They've been teasing it for a while, and we theorized what could it be? Is it a new search engine? Is it a product? You thought it would be a product. You thought it would be a phone. You were correct. Google announced not only a new phone, but a bunch of new actual products, including
a lot of hardware. Yeah,
a lot of hardware.
Exactly.
Yeah, including a new Chromecast joint, some Wi-Fi joints, the Google Home, a new like virtual reality thing.
Dreams.
So let's talk about like the big Google event. Did you watch any of it? Did you get a chance to watch any of it, or did you just read about it?
Just read about it, man. That's kind of funny though. Like it's like we're glued to the screen when Apple drops their keynote, but like we're nowhere to be found when Google drops theirs. But I did read about it, and I think that they are bringing a lot to the table in terms of just like we just talked about their hardware execution. I think that's pretty phenomenal to have that many products that you're dropping, and you're able to present that in the span of 90 minutes and do it artfully. I think that's kind of cool. And man, honestly, I think Google is really positioning themselves to take more market share away from Apple, especially with some of the VR and some of the home products. I'm not sure about the phone yet. What are your thoughts about that?
I think I agree. I thought it was interesting the keynote, if you will. Google is very careful. Like they had to have some sort of announcement, but they didn't want to do it Apple style, but they kind of did. So it felt and looked more like production wise. It's really interesting.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. It felt more like a town hall. They tried to do like more of like a homespun.
So it's more intimate, huh?
Yeah, like a homespun. Like we're just a couple of guys telling you about whatever, which is ironic because Google's one of the biggest companies in the world. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. It's hard to not do a launch or a keynote event and not just think of Apple, because Apple's just dominates it. So it really just feels, no matter what you do or how you present it,
you're gonna draw that comparison.
It's Apple light, but and you got a bunch of nerds in the audience like taking pictures and oohing and ahhing when they announce stuff, and they did seem like they kind of discouraged them from clapping on a key like the sycophants do at the iPhone thing. And we have a new camera. Woo! Like they didn't do any of that. Like, but I think they probably discouraged that because I think that's just a goofy looking move. But it was cool.
I mean, I just stuff I read. I love what they're doing with the Daydream virtual reality and just having that kind of plug into a lot of their YouTube content, and then having other networks or brands be able to develop content for the headset. And I think it's kind of funny. I want to ask you, like, the incorporation of the fashionable elements, having it clothed up now. It has fabric on it. Do you think that's something that's gimmicky, or you think that's how all these headsets will begin to adopt this type of design?
I think that it's not gimmicky. I think that you had to be able to do something initially, because I think that look, the fabric, like customize your own special fabric. Player. I got a special balloon.
Exactly. I got this velvet player. It's a velvet VR headset player.
I mean, I feel like that you have to do something, because if you look at the PlayStation joint, they're doing more of the sleek, like what you would think the futuristic VR thing would look like. I feel like the old Google stuff was a cardboard box, which is not going to fly.
Google Cardboard.
Yeah, so that's not going to work. So you have to figure out. I like their attempt to do something that feels more ergonomically sound and something that the thing they keep shoving down our throats it's like a piece of clothing. Yeah, it's like a piece of clothing, which let's slow down. It's not. I know it's a piece of clothing, but it's not a hat. It's not a scarf. It's not. It's still a thing an active thing that covers your vision. So
yeah, but that's the thing. You want to be lost in this world, and so having this type of fabric kind of like be the transient factor to kind of make you feel comfortable and make you feel just in place. Like you might be lost in the world because it feels like a pillow top, like a feather top pillow.
Yeah. I do agree. I think that there is, you hit it on the head. I think there's something to being able to address the comfort of it all. Right. And so they do have the key thing which is true. They got that removable rubber piece because those joints do get really sweaty and stanky. So you have to having that stuff else. You want to remove it, wash it, and so I do like it. We'll see. I mean, it I don't know about the colors and the we'll see all kinds of different colors and designs and stuff. But let's go back to the phone for a minute. I want to ask you about something about that just hit me. How I don't know if this is going to work or not. I as I sit here right now today on October 5th, I don't know. I can honestly tell you I don't know if I will or won't end up in the Google ecosystem or not. Because I could have told you maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'll never leave Apple. I'm an Apple ride or die. But as I said right now, I don't know that I won't, because I will say that Google's gone about, the question I have for you is, I think Google's gone about this really, really smartly, in that it's like almost like a sneak attack. Mm-hmm. They focus on software, on changing our lives in every other way, and then did hardware last. Yeah. And it's like and when you drop that hardware, it really feels like the last piece of the puzzle. By the time you get Google as a search engine that's ubiquitous, and you add YouTube as another search engine that's ubiquitous in the way we share music and movies and everything else, and then you add Gmail, which is now ubiquitous as a way to do mail, and then you add Google Hangout, and you add all these different Google Maps and all these different functions that you have that are existing that you use through your iPhone anyway, that you're already using in your iPhone and your computer, and Chrome and Chromecast, and then you just add the last piece. Boop, here's the hardware. Oh, just switch it all over.
100%. I mean,
I'm like, that's genius to me.
I mean, you got to think though from the hardware perspective, and where we are cognitively with our technology, is that a lot of the hardware is the same. Like, it's not, what's in the Apple phone is not too far off from what's in the Android phone. It's not that far off, you know. But to your point, the software is like, and they had that game on lock. What they need to do is just make their products more sexy and create more of that allure that Apple was so great at doing in its early days, and continuing that even to now contemporarily. They've always made it seem like the most coveted object on earth. Google has to work on their marketing essentially to be able to change the psychology of people. But I mean, if you put if head-to-head combat, I think that what the nuts and bolts and the guts that are in the phone, I think Google could definitely serve Apple. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's an issue of which phone or which company has the best technology. I think Google, like you said, can give them a run for their money. Yeah, but people have tried. I mean, Apple's very. I mean, you hit that on the head. Apple's very, very good at making you feel like not only like the marketing, but also the design, the Johnny Ive of it all. Like the design is always on point. It's a piece of art.
And then the design is always really, like, he's done a fantastic job with the design over the years. Mm-hmm. And then of all the products across the board, he's a genius, I think. But then also the marketing on top of that, making this feel like this is a coveted thing that you need to have. Exactly. Not only from a standpoint of like it's a coveted piece you need to have, but also the other layer, which is like from a technological early adopter standpoint, like you need to have this. And I think that's where Microsoft has just, no matter how much money they would spend on it over the years, no matter how many marketing firms and design firms and whatever they would throw at it, they would still fall short to what Apple was doing. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if Google can now throw all this money at it and then compare that, because that is the last factor, right? Is the sexiness, I guess.
I mean, but it's the same thing with shoes. Like, it's not that much of a difference between Nikes and Adidas. So it's not that much of a difference.
That's a great analogy.
But Nike does a great job of making you feel like, yo, you're the man when you put on some Nikes.
Yeah, Adidas not so much.
Exactly.
Right.
So
that's a really great analogy. So it's really interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know. Like, I'm a diehard, ride or die Apple person. But then again, I was a diehard ride or die BlackBerry person too.
We're just having this conversation.
Nine years ago, or what? I think they got me 8 years ago, but they got me. They got me. So, we'll see. Anyways, but just back to the phone. The phone looks very interesting. Look, they have the Google Pixel is what it's called, and the Google Pixel XL, which is their version of the Google Pixel, which is the Plus. It's got 4K Chromecast Ultra. It's got it's got all this cool stuff. Mm-hmm. But what it does have is it's the camera. It's got they've plus the camera. They now have the best camera on the market, which was I think in the ratings of cameras, and if I'm not mistaken about this, the iPhone was I forget what it is, but I think the iPhone is an 89 rating. No, they're the iPhone 7 is an 86 and the Pixel's an 89 rating, the highest rating of any camera, rivaling a DSLR. And so they're very proud about that from a hardware standpoint. So for all those people who thought that Google couldn't really get down the hardware standpoint, they spent a lot of time and money to prove to you that we can do something on a hardware standpoint. And I guess at the end of the day, that's all we're really talking about, right? Is the camera, because as you said, everything else is kind of the same. Display, 4K, touch, software, buttons are where the buttons are going to be, but headphones where the headphones are going to be. But really, it really boils down to the camera.
Yeah.
So if they got the best camera and they got all the software, I don't know.
Hey, man, it's the same price.
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing. I mean, it's just like who you identify with, what your brand speak is,
right.
What camp you belong to. But I don't really see too much of a difference. I see there being more of a convergence of where we are with the different tech companies that are developing phones and tablets. I see it more similar than different. And I feel like what Apple used to be in terms of their unveiling of products, like, hey, we're the future, we're the next. I don't get that sense now. And so I think that Google has an opportunity to be able to come and sweep that from them. And maybe with their other products that are on their product line, maybe they're able to do that and create more of a lifestyle that Apple has done a great job of doing. So. Yeah.
Last question for you. So where do you think this is going? Because there's two schools of thought. This could be going to the place of look, none of this is going to matter anyway, because, everyone's going to be on Twitter, everyone's going to be on Facebook, everyone's going to be on Google. All these things are ubiquitous. You're not going to be able to only search engine Google on Google products and only search engine, Facebook on the Facebook phone. That's not going to happen. So it's all going to be saying, are these going closer to televisions, in the way what you get is the same, but a Samsung versus a Panasonic versus a Sony, which TV is it? We're going hardware that way? Or are we really talking about the whole ecosystem building, and are we really, in other words, Apple versus Google? Do you think it's going to go more along the lines we're going to get all the software will be kind of the same, ubiquitous, and it's really about the best hardware, or do you think it'll all be more about the ecosystem?
I think it's the ecosystem, definitely. What the offering is underneath that umbrella. I mean, you think what's under the Google umbrella, what's under the Facebook umbrella, what's under the Amazon umbrella. Like, they all have similarities, but they also have great things that they're doing that other people are not doing.
But I can get all that. What if I get all that shit on my iPhone? I can get Amazon, I can get Facebook, I can get Google. So I mean, what's
you can't get Apple Music on Google.
That's true. That's a good point.
So.
But I can get YouTube on mine. Google doesn't have their own proprietary thing unless they buy Spotify.
True.
True. Which is not a bad idea for Google. But
I mean, I think it's more similar than different, and I think that's where the trick is. How can you really expand upon those differences and draw people in, and make them feel like, oh, what you're offering I can't get anywhere else. And I think that's what these companies are engaged in. That's what the battle is, to make you think that what we have over here is way better than that, even though it pretty much is the same.
Right. Interesting. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I wanted to do some investigation and do some further looking into these products, because I am interested in playing with this Google phone and seeing what it is. Do you think Google will, now that they're in the hardware business with these products? We skipped over the other ones. They have the Daydream View headset, which is a virtual reality joint. The cloth, very nice headset. They got the Comcast Ultra, which supports 4K. It supports Dolby Vision.
I think that's great.
It's all this cool stuff. I mean, do you think it's only $69 as opposed to $129 for Apple TV? Do you think that this is the Apple TV killer, or do you think it's just
definitely not the Apple TV killer?
Right.
Again, it's perception.
Right.
They have to raise the perception. I mean, I don't see when I look at the Apple TV and look at the Chromecast, I don't see them as equals. Even though they might do the fucking same thing, I don't see them as equals. I see them as just I see them as that this is the cheap route. You can get something similar to this, but this is the cheap route. You know.
Right.
So I mean, but I love the fact that they're improving that technology and giving us the ability to have 4K. I love the fact that it's something you can put in your pocket and it has the potentiality that you could travel with it. Like, I mean, Apple TV too, but this is more like it's more like more navigational. Like you can just direct it and change it, and you know, I love that fact about the Chromecast, and so we'll see.
And then this last is just this new, the Google Wi-Fi, which is kind of this like hub technology, which allows you to have these little pods you can move throughout your house.
I think that's super smart.
We all have, I mean, I know you live in a giant mansion, so it's hard, it's hard to get your Wi-Fi points up. But
if I'm in a mansion, it's hard to get my Wi-Fi. That's something's wrong. I should be able to pay for the Wi-Fi.
That's true. That's a good point. But I do like the idea of being able to have different Wi-Fi points to your house. People have one that's for the kids where you can sort of monitor what they're doing.
I love the pause feature on that. That's pretty cool.
So that's good. Like it's very smart. So anyway, the point that I was making is now with all these hardware, do you think we'll see a Google retail store now, like Microsoft tried to do?
I hope not.
I hope not either, because I think those are gimmicky, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you been in the Microsoft store?
0.
Exactly.
Maybe once.
Like, there's nothing in there for you.
I tell you what store I've been in less. The Sony store.
Hey, man.
Terrible.
Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah, the Sony store is terrible.
I don't need the brick and mortar. I hardly even go to an Apple store now.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's true, actually. I mean, I go to Apple Store for Genius Bar only.
To get shit fixed.
Yeah. I can't remember when I go to the Apple Store to purchase anything. Why is that, by the way?
I mean, because
are we buying stuff online? Are we
buying
just
it
buying
online?
Best Buy?
Buy, yeah.
We just find the cheapest where to find it.
Exactly.
But there's no need to like go and get at that, because the Apple Store isn't really offering us the latest greatest stuff.
You only go to the Apple Store when it's time to re-up your phone, and like you said, the Genius Bar. Like, I'm not going in there on just a random Thursday.
Nor are you going there for products, because all their products, their price points are up.
Exactly.
Even their cases are like $150.
Exactly.
It's interesting. All right. Okay, I want to move on and talk about Google Assistant. One of the big things about this phone is Google Assistant, which is their version of Siri or Cortana or whatever, and they're talking about how it'll be able to live on your phone and on your mobile devices, and and also the Alio, which is that chat app thing that they do too, or Ello, I guess it's hello, but I'm not sold on Google Assistant. I will say, even on the at the town hall, at the demo, when he was demoing it, it didn't look. The lag time was it was a little late.
Oh, really?
He was like, "Allo, play something." It was like, and then it played. It was like, I was like, "Uh-oh." So I don't know. I'm not sold on. But what do you think about this?
I mean, like, this is the future, and I think that Google will probably be the closest to figuring this out, because of all the information and data collection that they have, and just how they've been able to organize humanity. I think they'll be able to create an AI that has the sophistication to be able to answer our questions and be integrated in our lifestyle. And so when you juxtapose it to Siri or Cortana, like, I think that Amazon is probably, like I said, closer to figuring it out. And I mean, Siri is terrible. Like, so I don't even use Siri. But to think that you have, Google Assistant, or you have this AI technology that's able to keep you on track, that's able to recommend stuff and do it close to real time, I think that's kind of cool. And I mean, this technology is going to be built upon and advanced. And I think this is just the early stages of it. Like, we're gonna have this type of technology in everything. When we walk into our homes, there's gonna be Google Assistant saying, "Hey, do you want me to turn on the lights, or do you want me to turn on the air conditioner, or whatever?" Like, it's gonna be integrated in every facet of our lives, and so it's just gonna continue to get better and better. And the AI is gonna continue to have more sophistication to be able to get the nuances. We may not even have to speak to be able to trigger some of the things that it does in sources. You know what I'm saying? It might just feel based on our body language or our facial structure, what our needs are.
I mean, that's all scary. What reminds me of I don't know if, I keep referencing Black Mirror, but I don't know if you saw any of the series Black Mirror, but there's the last Black Mirror that's out is a Christmas special one. Actually, John Hamm's in it, but it's actually sort of 3 stories kind of combined into one. It's their Christmas special. It's completely brilliant. But one of the things they do touch on is the idea of AI and complete AI and how that things happen, how it happens. And what they suggest is, without ruining any of the storyline, is that there's a procedure that you would do that to get a little thing implanted in your head, and it stays in there for a week.
Yeah.
And it makes a copy of your all of your brain,
download.
everything else, a download, and then you take it out and you put it in the computer, and then that thing is you, and it knows what to do.
Right.
But obviously that has that because Black Mirror, some weird shit happens. But it's an interesting thing. Like that doesn't feel like we're that far away from that.
I don't think we're far away from that at all. But I do like the fact that Google is trying to take out Amazon, take out Siri, and I think they're well positioned to do it. Like our dependency on Google, as a search engine is already there. So figure out a way to create this assistant, this artificial intelligence that can still provide answers to our questions and provide solutions to our problems in a way where we don't have to type it. I think that's close to being solved.
Right.
So
interesting. All right. So moving on, I want to talk about we'll talk about the GOP debate. I just want to touch on this. With a surprise to almost no one, the GOP website, before the debate was over, already had his response locked and loaded.
Retarded.
About their list. I think it was what was it, something like the top things that Tim Kaine wasn't asked or something, and it had Mike Pence as the clear winner. And before the debate's even over, they already had it all ready to go. It just proves to you what we already know, which is this is just BS.
I mean, it's BS, but of course, any organization, any company, any campaign is going to have some strategy behind it. So of course they've already mapped everything out. You've done a great job of mapping all your stuff out that you can't even get this one thing right to put it up at the right time.
I know.
That's terrible.
It's terrible, but it just I marvel at the people who still sort of think. I feel like there's two. I don't want to get into a basket of deplorables thing, but I feel like there's folks who sort of understand what sort of how the political machine works and how this sort of information talking point lie machine works.
And you got the sheep
on the right specifically, and then you have the folks who don't understand that, who are oh, I read on Facebook that Hillary's an alien or whatever.
Sheep.
It's it blows my mind that Facebook said Barack Obama is leading his own Muslim army, to a secret Muslim army. And I'm really? Read just a light Googling. Well, anyway. So yeah, this is that. This is for those folks. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But speaking of strategy,
I think it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. This is 40% of us of the electorate didn't even know who couldn't even name the vice president candidates. 40% of the electorate. Anyway, I don't get into it. I can go off on a rant all day about that. But speaking of strategy, DraftKings is something that we've been talking about for a long time. We're week 5, football week. I'm doing horribly in both of my fantasy football leagues, but I'm doing okay in DraftKings because in DraftKings, doesn't have any memory. It's not an ongoing thing. It's no season-long commitment. Every week is a new week for me. Is a new week for all of us. And what's great about that is, every week, you can select a brand new team, brand new players, and have a brand new shot to win some money, real money. A shot at over you're sharing over $1 million, sometimes 100,000, sometimes $1 million.
1 million.
Yes, you're your own GM. So check it out. Go to DraftKings.com. Don't wait. Get DraftKings.com now. You can choose your players for this weekend's contest. Enter the promo code, our promo code Geek, as in Geek Nerd Tech. You can play for free with your first deposit. Promo code Geek to play for free to share in over $1 million in total prizes this weekend. Only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Eligibility restrictions may apply. Check the website for details. DraftKings. I'm going to get that million, hopefully, soon.
Hey, man. Get your M's up, bro.
I'll keep playing. So the other thing is, back in the politics, there's a question about the political bots. Are they stacking the deck in the race? And this is interesting because, right after the first debate, Donald Trump was quick to say, well, I've won in all the online. The online polls got me winning. Drudge has me winning by 80%, and whatever. Nazi.com has me winning at. But it's interesting because, first of all, these aren't polls. These aren't scientific polls.
Yeah.
These are people that can just anybody can just go in and sort of click 1,000 times to say that.
Well, they are scientific polls,
right?
But they're not able to distinguish from who's real and who's not.
Got it. That's a good point. This is a problem because you can't distinguish who's real and who's not. We are talking about the internet. So we are talking about people from other countries. People from anyone can just go in and flood and weight these polls.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think this is funny. I think it's funny, but I think it's also damaging in terms of the perception. And that's what the power of the bot is that I, as a regular person, can create fake identities that also, because of the technology, I can create an algorithm that gives them the sophistication to be able to answer questions or make statements and do it in real time and be able to send it to millions of people. And what that does is sways perception. And that perception could be inaccurate. That perception could be disrespectful. It could do a lot of good, but could also do a lot of damage and destruction. And in terms of what we were just talking about earlier about the sheep, about people just reading something like, oh, I believe this, or not doing the due diligence to research it and figure stuff out. Like, yeah, people might think that, hey, Donald Trump is winning, or a certain situation is accurate. And I think that is why, you can't take everything so seriously, or you can't take it verbatim. You have to do your research, and you have to kind of do your own personal checks and balances and see, what is pollutant and what is actually viable for you. And so, yeah, if you just went off of what you read all the time, then you would be really misinformed. And I think that's the point. Right. But the fact that,
which is sad,
both candidates, have social media followings that are in the millions. They're saying that 30% on Trump's side, maybe 40% of his followers are fake. Yeah. So say he has like 10 million followers on Twitter, almost half are fake. But you think that this dude is like doing so much stuff? Like, nah, bruh.
I mean, this is I'm trying to go too political here, but this is what Trump does. This is his MO. I mean, there's this really, really, really fascinating, great documentary on PBS on Frontline. PBS is pretty nonpartisan, but it's a really great documentary on it's called it's about they have them every year, every 4 years, about the candidates, choose a candidate. Mm-hmm. But it basically parallels the rise of Donald Trump's whole story from when he was a kid to right now, and Hillary's whole story, and it's super great. It's super it's got all these people who are close to both of them, and it's amazing to watch. I highly recommend it. It's on Frontline. And you can find it online. But anyway, one of the things they talk about, repeated thing that Trump does, is his sort of conflation and inflation of the truth. When he built Trump Towers, is 50 stories. Like he said everyone was 65 stories. So like really, if you're on the 50th floor, it's like, oh, you're on the 60th floor, and you're like, oh, I'm way up high. Like Trump's like, that's right.
I'm a billionaire. Maybe
I'm a billionaire.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Probably not.
Maybe you're a thousandaire.
Even when he announced his presidency at the Trump Towers, he came down and like they laughed because he's like, "Oh, it's great to see all your thousands of people. Great to see all thousands of you."
5 people in the audience.
Yeah, and it was like maybe hundreds of people in there. But he said thousands, and everyone in that room like, "Wow, there's thousands of us watching on TV. Thousands of people." Like he does that all the time.
That's hilarious.
And so yeah, so it's
my social media numbers 30 million.
Right. So it's not just about you can't believe what you read, but people don't even at this point people don't even sort of do the light Googling or even believe what they read. It's like what Trump says.
Yeah.
Trump will says, I blew Hillary away. I won all the polls. Yeah. People are like, yep, Trump won all the polls. He said so. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I'm not gonna just be so critical over bot technology because it is useful. Like when it's delivering factual information, like the weather, or if there's like traffic alerts or stock market fluctuations. Like a lot of people use bots for those particular reasons, and it's very useful because you're able to get the information fast. It's not something you have to necessarily manage with your own fingertips. And so I think it's just a fine line, and that like again, just to accent the point, like when you are on these social media platforms and you are getting information about stuff, just do some checking, do some fact checking. Yep. Don't just consume it and run with that and have that kind of be your cemented perception of things. So
sure, absolutely, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I just really Trump, man. It's tough. Anyway,
let him tell it. He's smart. He's smart to do all this.
And then just watching that documentary, watching their rise, like how I mean, I'm going to say this one last thing. Watching Hillary like go through a literally lifetime of service, and like a lifetime of service basically, and also serving and sort of being loyal to her husband in all kinds of various ways. And Trump's lifetime of self-promotion and lies and everything else, leading all the way up to the point where he's broken. He's licensing his name only, which is the only thing he had, making money off the Trump name only, till The Apprentice came along, and 14th season of The Apprentice propelled his wealth up and also his status up to where he can run for president and live on the myth that he's this great businessman. And America totally forgot that the last thing he did was bankrupt his entire company and lost stockholders, millions and millions of dollars, and then in pension and everything else.
Yeah, he does a great job of controlling and changing the narrative.
Yeah, we all forgot he's just all a great businessman. And he says that, and we still all believe it. He's a great businessman. Like, wow. Anyway, all right, I'm done. So I want to move on to Snapchat, because I want to move on to the Snapchat story, Marissa, because Snapchat, it's interesting in Adweek about what we've been talking about is how people, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, they're all trying to shift their name. They don't want to be known as a social company anymore. I think social is a little bit demeaning. They want to be known as companies. So, like, I think that we talked about Twitter's shift into a media company. They don't want to be like a social media company. They just want to be a media company. Snapchat is trying to be a camera company, which is interesting. That's an interesting turn. I thought that Snapchat would be more of a media company, but what they're saying is they're especially with this new hardware, with the new Snap glasses,
Spectacles,
the Snapticles, whatever, that they're in the business of capturing images and sharing images and doing it in hardware, and doing it with cameras. Facebook, I don't know what Facebook is going to become. I imagine a media company as well. But what do you think about this?
I mean, they are what they are, like, in terms of how they want to brand
it. Do you buy it? Or do you
no, I don't buy it. How they brand it is, to each his own. Like, yeah, you want to be able to brand it to make yourself appear bigger than you are, or more comprehensive than you are, but essentially your core business is A or is B. You know what I'm saying? So Twitter is a social media company. Like, until they have other products that are working and successful, then I think the changing of the moniker would be more appropriate. But now, no, you're a company that disseminates information in small bits. Yeah. In terms of Snapchat being a camera company, that's interesting to me. We'll see how successful they are with the release of the spectacles, which I think is super corny. And I don't know.
Invasive.
I don't think that's going to be massively adopted. I think it's too niche. I think it's not set up to be something that can be innovative and grow with the times and grow with the technology. I think it's just too like a gimmick, and I don't know if that's a good move for them. But maybe I don't have the vision, and maybe I'm short-sighted with my analysis. But it doesn't seem like a good bet.
It's not a good bet because I don't know. I guess it depends on, like I said before, it's just about the price point, like how expensive everything's going to be, who's going to have access to it. Like, I got 3 daughters. They all 3.
I want one too.
But I buy all 3 of my daughters some Snap spectacles because they need one. I don't, so it's interesting. We'll see how that plays out. I agree with you 100%. I think it's just all posturing, but I think it's obviously for stockholders and Wall Street and all the other folks who really don't, being a social media company just doesn't hold the clout internationally. Even as big as these parts are, people are still trying to wrap their hands around, well, what is it? Like, I know what U.S. Steel is. They make steel. I know what these guys is. They make cars. But what do you guys make? Social? Like, what is that? So I understand the need to be able to have to quantify what they are, but we'll see how big of a gimmick it is,
Hey,
because I think you're reaching a tipping point with these companies, like, Snapchat with these crazy multi-billion-dollar evaluations, Twitter with these billion-dollar evaluations, where it's almost bubble-like. Okay, so, Snapchat is just growing and growing and turn down money from Facebook and turn down money from everyone else, and to where they're worth B's.
Yeah.
And so finally someone's going to ask, like, well, why are they worth so much money? What do they do again? Yeah. They make glasses? What do they do?
Well, they're able to capture an audience. That's what all these guys are able to do, and that audience is worth that valuation because you're able to you're building that valuation based on the potentiality of you putting your product and advertising to that audience. And so they've been a good job of keeping that audience, growing that audience, and that's that's why I don't think the changing of the moniker makes a difference. Like, to me, there's a changing of the old guard to this new money. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we've all in the last 10 years have grown with the title of social media. It's a part of our lives. It's a part of everything. So I don't think there's like a confusion as to what that is. I'm just interested to see, like, what's the distinction? I'm a media company versus a social media company. Sorry, what are you printing newspapers, Twitter?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, what are you doing?
I think it's more along the lines of just getting some of this old guard baby boomers to wrap their head around and something they can understand, so they can invest more money, or maybe when they go public, or when they think they do, so they can understand what it is and quantify what it is. Because
maybe,
as we know, the baby boomers are slow to adapt anything. So they do, like, do you guys, next thing to them, so they're a car company. Oh, you make cars? Okay, I get it now.
Right.
Anyway, moving on to Facebook. Facebook launched Facebook Marketplace, which is sort of their version of Craigslist, which I think is, look, the people are already sort of buying and selling and exchanging and doing things on Facebook anyway. So Facebook decided, let's just make an official thing, official place where you can do it officially with Facebook users, and something you always tout and talk about, which is keeping people within the ecosystem. I imagine this is just a further play to niche things out and be able to quantify quantify things for advertisers. If you get a group of people who are all selling chairs back and forth to each other, then the chair company can come in and advertise to them.
Yeah.
Or the furniture company can come in. If you get a bunch of people that are selling a bunch of electronics back and forth, then you can have the electronics company come and advertise to them. Is that what's happening?
I think that's exactly what's happening. I think it's also, I think it's some posturing to say, hey, look, eBay, look, Amazon, we're coming from you. We're coming for you from this angle too. You're not the only people that can sell and exchange goods. Like, Facebook does it too. And guess what? We have more users than you around the world.
Right.
So, hey, we're going to continue to build this out and do it better than you, because we've been watching you for the last 5+ years doing it. We think we can do it much better.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. We talk about the billions of users that Facebook has. So now that they've grown into the billions, it's like, what you're now seeing is like a flood of all these like niche things and micro niche things to keep this billions in their ecosystem. Yeah. So all these little things like, Craigslist, we have our Facebook list.
Exactly.
This, and it's like, it's happening quietly and quickly, but it's really smart.
Super smart.
And again, I always say scary, but it's just like, it's interesting, like how before you know it, you're just in the Facebook system. Yeah. You're in the system.
Man, the one-stop shop. Like, we have our offering, our slate of offering, encompasses everything that you might need. Like, there's no reason for you to download all these other platforms. You just stay right here.
Right. Yeah. And to the degree, it's more of a philosophical question we don't have time to talk about, but to the degree that people don't think about that and just sort of like, it's all through Facebook, instead of blindly hand their entire lives over to Facebook, is just troubling to me. I mean, I know if Amazon wants the same thing, but like, it's just troubling that people can't take one step back outside that and keep their level of choice, as opposed to like.
What do you mean? Unpack that.
Well, I mean, I feel like that there's a certain people, like, once you're in the Facebook system, there's people I know who are like, oh, Facebook has coffee cups now, I'm drinking a Facebook cup. Oh, Facebook has paper now, I'm doing paper. I don't need anything. Like, there's no question about, like, if you're so embedded in the Facebook system, when it comes up with whatever it needs, then it's almost good news for you. Oh, thank God, Facebook has microphones now. Like, and that's what scares me. Versus like, oh, Facebook has microphones now. Cool, that's one option. Let me still step back and check out the other choices and make sure I'm making the best choice for myself, and I'm not just sucked into the Facebook system. Or whoa, I looked up and I've got everything I own as Facebook. Or everything I do is Facebook. That can't be good. So I don't know. No one's asking those questions. I feel like that they're just kind of sneaking that in on you. And I don't know. I don't say no one's asking those questions, but
I mean, it kind of circles back to our conversation about Apple versus Google. I think Facebook is the sexier option.
Sure.
So do people ask, like, well, the new iPhone's coming out, let me do my research and look at the Google phone? No, not really.
Nope.
Like, so it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, but two more quick things, and we'll get. Also, I think that this just really quickly, Facebook's been apologizing for once they launched, there's an immediate influx of all kinds of weird requests, that come up on Marketplace. Sure. So I mean,
I will sell you my blank.
I mean, there's one for a kid on there. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's Facebook, so we have 1 billion users. I mean, you think Craigslist is bad? Man. So and how Facebook polices this or gets in there and gets in the, versus the censorship versus everything else. I'll be interested to see how they work all that, but it's already happening. I want to mention that the bank card. There's a company called Uberthur Technology is coming out with this, trying to figure out a way to make your card more secure, and they have the 3-digit code in the back of your card. They trademark something called motion code, where that code sort of changes every hour. It changes all the time, and every hour, changes your 3-digit code every hour, which makes it extremely difficult for people to do anything about it. I think it's cool, and it does it right on your card. So like a little digital LED readout, and you look in the back of your card, and it's something. The only thing that's bad about that is oftentimes you commit stuff to memory and what's your numbers.
Exactly.
But what do you think about this?
That was my point. I think in terms of enhancing more protection for users, I think it's great because, I mean, you get access to, the front numbers. That's one thing, but the back number is important too.
Right.
But, now when I want to make a purchase or I'm doing something online, I guess it doesn't matter because when there is a merchant that asks me for the security code, I still look at the back of my card. Anyway, I don't think I commit that number, but like I still look at the back of the card when people ask me. So I think the fact that it morphs and transforms into a different number, I think is pretty interesting, and I think it's smart. I think it seems like a no-brainer to do.
Yeah.
But very impactful.
Does it in fact bring up questions of like hackability? Like that number's changing all the time. Someone's got to change that number, even if it's random. It's got to sync with your existing number. I mean, it's just again more things that you're kind of leaving in the hands of technology, which seems like it's more hackable. I don't know. Maybe if someone hacks into M Technologies and messes with the numbers.
But that same person that would hack into the M Technology could hack into whatever merchant service that's providing the card the same way. So I think this is just an additional step that will prevent hackers from getting that information.
Sure.
I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Sure.
So.
Last but not least, I want to touch on Westworld. Did you get a chance to see it yet?
No, I have not got a chance to see it. However, I've been seeing the marketing and billboards and posters all over town, and it seems like it's pretty awesome.
It's very, very good. Very, very sort of asks a lot of very hyper. Even in the pilot, I know the series is going to do this. It asks a lot of
the promo. Sorry,
a lot of hyperly complex questions about AI and reality and consciousness and life itself and all kinds of other things, and which is already all interesting. It also brings up some questions of morality in the form of Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother and his wife. One of the things that they really wanted to examine is this idea of Westworld is a theme park where you can go and live these things out and go kill people and do rape people and do all kind of crazy things in there and whatever and have no problem with it. But the issue is they're asking the question about the sort of Grand Theft Autoization of the world. I mean, what if you extrapolate that out, like all the things you can do in Grand Theft Auto? What if you can go do that in real life? Is that cathartic? Is that what does that say about our society? Is that interesting? Is that something that could and should be done? It's really interesting to think about those questions. And also even then talking about they're even getting criticized for even bringing up a world where this could happen, like as show creators. And so I don't know. It's interesting. So what do you think about this?
I definitely think it's interesting. That's the reason why I like the premise of the show, is because it's positing a greater social, cultural thing that we as a people can explore and have a dialogue about. Because our creations do affect our behavior and affect our interpersonal relationships. And so the fact, even with movies like what's the movie where every year you cleanse by murdering? The Purge, like stuff like those type of concepts. It's arguing that it's a degree of catharsis where you're able to express your inner, urges of what it means to be human and do it in whatever way you choose. Like, I think the moral question is that we got to have more of a framework, more of a value system with who we are as a society, and like it can't just be I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have to have some type of parameters over the violence and over the things that are destructive to our society, because it's entertaining to see those things and incorporate those things in the form of games and comic books and stuff. But there's a fine line when it starts to bleed over into real life, and in many cases it has because people have been influenced by the things they consume, and depending on where they are with their behavior, where they are in their lives with their behavior and whatever, like that could influence them to do something negative and crazy that's destructive. So I think having that conversation is good.
I think it's good too. And I mean, I know for one, when I play enough GTA,
so you're running lights. You already told me.
I'm running lights. I know people. Chris Hardwick talks about how he's playing a long time and he almost had to stop himself from running people over on the sidewalk, which you do in GTA. So it's a lot. But I think it's really interesting that, you know, people are upset about what they're seeing in Westworld, what they're seeing portrayed in Westworld, what they're seeing in Westworld, when it's actually just them asking the questions that are already existing in our society. I think it's just an interesting kind of like, you know, it kind of reminds me of Inception. It's kind of like, you know, world within a world within a world, you know. But the show is interesting. I think the show is going to be good. But I mean, obviously the production value is through the roof, and you know, there's been 3 years on this stuff. They shut down production on it. There's all these rumors that it's really trouble and it's all going to be screwed up because they shut down production, but they resumed production. It's probably one of the most expensive shows that HBO's ever done, including Vinyl, which they spent like $1 billion on and canceled. So HBO needs their next Game of Thrones. I don't know if this could be it, but it's definitely got all the stuff that I really enjoyed the pilot. You know, we'll see where it goes. I read this and I agree with this. I don't know why I'm giving a review of the show right now, but I read this and I agree with this. I think the show does need. I read that someone said the show needs a Han Solo. It needs like
someone more iconic.
Well, it just needs someone just lighter to be able to. The show's so heavy.
Break it up.
Just someone to be like, look at this, like, whoa, this is crazy. You know, like, oh, this is some bullshit or whatever. Just someone to do that because everything is just so heavy and so serious and like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, the Christopher Nolan world is
very,
and the
very
Nolan
dark,
world,
very dark.
You know, 2 hours is a long time, but to go through 5 years of that, like, that's a long time. And I read that too, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, but I do like it, and you'll like it too. So you should check it out. For sure. That's all we got for this week.
Well, I guess we can run it. We can run it next week, man. Let's give everyone a full review of Luke Cage.
Oh yeah, Luke Cage.
Next week.
How many do you have? Are you in yet?
I'm not in. That's why I'm saying next week.
Next week. I've only seen one, and I loved it. So we should definitely talk about it next week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. For Geek Nerd Tech, we will talk to you next week. Oh wait, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Keely Shine, and you.
Instagram and Twitter at Joe K. Bradswell, Snapchat at JK Brads, and thank you very much. See you next week. Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram us @KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners.